should enter the Foundation's Revealed competition.
I don't think so. I'm really busy. Working full-time, new semester just started. I'm taking more credits than last semester.
Enter the competition.
What about the kids? I'm taking care of the house. This place is a disaster.
Make 2 pieces.
But
2 pieces.
Hello everyone. I just wanted to tell you about a wonderful website organization called Foundations Revealed. It's a great educational resource for costumers that has everything, articles and tutorials covering everything from corsets to crinolines, bonnets to petticoats, and each year they host a competition with a theme and prizes for all levels of sewists. The theme for this year is Once Upon a Time, costumes from literature, and this year for the first time I have decided to enter. I've watched from afar for several years, and this year I'm going to submit something. And in thinking about who or what character to submit, I thought might be interesting to portray one of the creepiest women in literature, a woman scorned. And I decided to create Miss Havisham's wedding dress from Great Expectations. Miss Havisham is the perfect example of someone who, to quote U2, got stuck in a moment. Miss Havisham's father owned a very lucrative brewery, made him enough to make him rich, but just barely a gentleman. And Miss Havisham's love interest, Compayson, didn't love her at all, though she was completely devoted to him. He took her money, broke her heart, and from that day on, she was essentially in mourning. The clock stopped, the curtains closed, everything remaining just as it was at the moment she learned of his deception, only changed by time and decay. The story was written in 1860, and it's told from the point of view of Pip, who at the time of the writing is maybe 35. He is an adult man. When the story opens, we meet Pip as a boy of probably somewhere between 7 and 10. Now, if Pip was 35 in 1860, he would have been born in 1825. Thus, Miss Havisham's wedding would have been scheduled to take place sometime before 1825, though I would place it earlier. Most film adaptations of Great Expectations feature a Miss Havisham that's very old, wearing very Victorian clothing. Miss Havisham is in reality probably close to her 40s, which I'm creeping up on. Actually, I'm sprinting up on. So let's take a look at my depiction of Miss Havisham, because I want the gown to be wearable for future events. I'm not going to age and yellow it. I just don't have the heart, though it would admittedly make it much more interesting. I did, however, choose ivory fabrics instead of white to kind of go along with her sort of aged and faded present.
So for my depiction, I've decided to create 2 pieces, a gown of silk taffeta using the pattern I took from the penny dress, and I'll link those videos below. I'm going to change the sleeves from long sleeves to short puffed sleeves. The penny dress is an extant garment of silk taffeta, has 2 drawstring front closures, one at the neck and one under the bust. For my version, I'll still be using taffeta to keep costs manageable. The second piece will be a lace overdress, and I found some wonderful Chantilly lace on Renaissance fabrics. This piece will be draped in all of my own design. The overdress will be a V-neck that closes at the waist with an open skirt. And I've never worked with lace before, so this will be a challenge and require some research and study. I've added trains to both pieces, so they'll be perfect for an afternoon wedding.
Individually, both of my garments will be very plain, but together they should look very pretty. Not really appropriate for a ball, but very appropriate for an afternoon wedding. I used the same back and side pieces for the underdress as I did for the overdress. Draped a new front bodice piece and then made a mock-up. All right, so I've got the overdress bodice mock-up on with my stays, which are not laced the whole way. And I've got some adjustments I need to make under the arm, not only to bring it in, but also the arm side is too high, and so I've made some markings on that to adjust the pattern. I'm going to do, I think, a couple of gathers here in the front, right under the bust, and gather it into a waistband, which I think will be cute. Back looks good. I think I like the think I might want to lengthen the back just like a half an inch, and that actually was a mistake that I made when cutting this out. I didn't leave any seam allowance, so once I fix that, no problem. I'm going to sew, I'm going to make these adjustments, and then I'm going to sew the sleeve in, check that for fit. I've also like changed the shape of the front opening here. Sleeve, check that for shape, and then I can start cutting into my real fabric.
Appropriate fit was a big priority. So once those fit properly, I cut and assembled my fabric. Not using any lining to stabilize the lace, so I used French seams to make sure that everything was secure and looked tidy.
Okay, so I put my hair in a braid thinking, oh, I will look less like a bridge troll, and I still look like a bridge troll, and I guess, you know, if you've become a bridge troll, there's no turning back. So what I've got going on, which you cannot really see very well, is that I am draping the overdress skirt. I'm going to try it two ways. I'm going to kind of like fake some gathers and see if I like the look of that better than the pleats. The challenge here is that I'm trying for like no reason exactly to use the full width of this lace, because I'm trying to make life easier for myself, and I don't want to have to make another seam.
I started out by pinning the center of the width of the fabric to the center back of the bodice and the selvage edges to the front openings. I added small gathers to match the gathers at the under bust, and then smoothing the rest of the fabric toward the back, all of the excess was taken up in the pleats on the back. I also draped this using the 18th century method of adjusting the length at the waistband instead of the hem. That way I could use the lovely chantilly edging as the hem. When the skirt was stitched to the bodice, I cut away the extra fabric. The skirt was attached to the bodice with tiny whip stitches, which I've seen on some extant garments.
Who's ready for some early morning draping with Christine? It's actually not that early, it's like 8, so I have an hour until I have to do like the work that I get paid to do. I wanted to get a little bit of progress done today. I've already gotten the rest of the bodice pieces cut out, and the sleeve for the underdress, the overdress, is done, except I need to add a hook and eye at the waist. Right now is drape the back. I had thought with the lace about doing a piece in the back piece as having sort of pleats in it that would create kind of a fan shape, and I decided not to. I decided that the lace had enough interest in just its nature, you know, as being lace, and so I would do it on the underdress to make it a little bit fancier, because it is very, very plain. So here we go. What I've done is I've taken my pattern piece, I've taped the edge of it. It's not the outline, because I mean this, where this ends is, well, this is the stitch line, and so I put pins here at the top and the bottom to remind me to cut and leave seam allowance, because I am absolutely that type of person that forgets to cut seam allowance. And so what I'm going to do here with the mock-up that I did, I made too many pleats and it looked weird. It kind of looked like, reminded me of fish, like gills or something. I'm only going to do 4, maybe 5 at most. And I'm going to be much more careful about it, because this fabric is a little sheer. I don't know that my silk would have been this sheer, but because it's a lighter color, it might be. So you can see
the folds that that are made in the fabric, and so I am going to like measure things and try to keep them the same amount, just so that, you know, it doesn't look weird when, you know, you can see that edge. Yeah, so you can see that edge on the back of the gown, and you know, it'll become sort of a even the being able to see through it a little bit will be kind of a design element, she said, question mark. All right, so we'll have one in the center.
The other change I made to the pattern will be the back. Taking inspiration from an 1809 fashion plate, I'm going to manipulate the fabric to create pleats. The ones at the end sort of kind of curving out to the shoulder pieces. The fabric I ordered for the gown hadn't arrived yet, so with 8 days to go, I went to Joann Fabrics and bought an ivory polyester to use. I draped the back panel using this. I cut out all the bodice and the sleeve pieces and even started stitching the back pleats down when my silk arrived about 10 days late in the mail.
Okay, so here we have my hot mess of a pattern piece, and eventually when I have more time I will transfer this onto paper or Swedish tracing paper, but for now this is it. So I've marked all of my fold lines, and then I've made colored dots to line up so that I know which lines go where. To make this like make more sense, which has made it look like way messy, but a little bit easier to translate, you know, when it comes time to where does what gets pinned to what.
So the fabric arrived this afternoon. So I've gotten all the bodice pieces cut out. Got the back started. So now I'm just sitting here wondering, do I want to take the time? There it is. To recut all these pieces. Probably.
So yeah, I started over, and I'm really glad that I did, because this silk is gorgeous. I recut my silk pieces, I recut my lining in linen, and got to work. Starting from the center, I worked out doing sort of pairs of matching pleats at a time, one on each side, so that they would be balanced. I would pin them in place, press them with my fingers, and then using a prick stitch, I would stitch them to the lining. I then bound the neckline because there was a lot of layers of fabric in there. I thought it would be a less bulky way to handle that, and the back piece was done.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to give you a brief update of my progress. So, fabric came yesterday after I had already made some progress on the polyester fabric, but I decided to go ahead and make this thing what I wanted it to be, and that I would rather make the thing that I set out to make and maybe not make the deadline, rather than settle for something else. So I have finished the back. All the pleats are done, and I bound the edges because it's a lot of fabric, and I did not want to like fold it under and fold it under and have it be so bulky. So binding it seemed to work pretty well. Inside looks pretty decent. Anyway, so today is going to be like this is going to be basting and trying to finish the edges of the bodice and the lining, and so I'll work on that today. Hopefully tomorrow assemble. And I say these things like I'm trying to set myself realistic goals, with the hopes though that I'll accomplish more than I think I will and be able to work ahead.
Once I had the fashion fabric basted to the lining, I was able to sew the side pieces to the back piece using French seams to enclose all the raw edges. Then I finished the front pieces. of the lining and the silk because those have to be done separately. Basted those together where necessary and attached them to the side panels, again using French seams to make sure that everything is nice and tidy. I then added the shoulder pieces, French seams, cleaned them up, ready to go.
Okay. Shaky camera, should have put it on a tripod. All right, so after a kind of late night last night and an early morning this morning, bodice is almost done. I just have to sew this shoulder seam. To do that, I need to put on my stays and fit it. Sleeves are assembled and have like running stitches in them ready to be gathered. So that'll be another part of like when I have my stays on, pin that in place and then figure out where the gathers need to go. And they also need hemmed, but I know again, it's a gather issue. I need to figure out where the gathers go before I can hem them. 1/2 of the shoulder straps. Well, no, because I even have this edge finished. So I just need to like sew this back seam, which is like super quick, and do the sleeves, and the bodice is done. And then I will need to drape the skirt. Fun times. Again, I need to make well, no, I don't need to make a decision. That's dumb. I was going to say I need to decide whether I'm going to gather the skirt or pleat it. And I think what I need to do is do something that looks like the pleating in the back here. So it needs to kind of like radiate from this center point. So that shouldn't be too hard. And now it is 9 o'clock and I need to do the work that I get paid for. So check in this evening, I guess, or tomorrow.
Because of the gathering in the sleeves, I couldn't turn them and hem them, so I bound them too, and that actually ended up looking really cute, which you will see in a moment.
She looks a wreck, but I promise she looks better than that when she's like put together. And she's got a lot of jewelry on because I'm trying to figure out like what to wear with that in photos. But anyway, so as you can see, bodice is done, sleeves are on and bound. Yes, took longer than I wanted it to, but whatever. I've got the front skirt panel cut out. I'm about to cut the slit for the front opening, which I'll have to turn and stitch. Then I'll be moving on to draping the back. How many days do we have left? 4. So, I mean, like 4 days I can do a skirt and like hem it and it's fine, but like also take pictures and also submit and write up the whatever. Bonus though, I did like get all of my school assignments turned in last night, except for like a couple of like discussion board comments that I need to make. So it's just get through my work day today and stitch, stitch, stitch all night long. So next step is to stitch the sort of like not really a placket. I'm just turning back the edges and hemming. That's what was done on the originals that I looked at. So that's what I'm gonna do. Then I will, oh my gosh. Okay, and now then I'll drape the back panel and stitch the front to the back. Attach it to the bodice and hem, and then it's done. Whee!
Spent a lot of time sewing at night after everyone else went to sleep, and a great tool for that is a headlamp. You might look ridiculous, but you'll be able to sew in bed without disturbing your significant other. So the skirt was pretty simple. I cut the width of the front panel, the width of the bodice, and then cut a slit down the center about 5 inches to create that little placket kind of opening. The back, I just draped and draped and draped, so that I could sort of mimic the radiating pleats of the bodice. I then basted those in place so that I wouldn't have to work around the pins. I then used tiny whip stitches to attach the skirt to the bodice, used this method on the lace overdress, added a waistband to the back of the gown, hemmed that bad boy, and voila, it was done. Saturday evening, just in time to wear this not ball gown to a virtual ball at the Teal House Regency weekend, which was actually a really great time and a really great thing to attend while I worked on this. So, took some photos with my camera using a timer and submitted my entry on Sunday. I also thought it would be fun to take a Miss Havisham photo. I wasn't really into dyeing my hair though, so this is what you get.
I have to say, I'm really pleased with how this turned out. There are some things I would do differently. Eventually, I will change the waistband trim on the lace overdress to the silk that I bought. It's currently, you know, in the backup polyester I'd purchased. I also might want to add some detail at the wrist on the lace overdress. I'm not sure yet. I also might just remove the waistband altogether so I can wear it with other things. And I'm sure that there are other things that I've messed up, but at this point I am so tired that I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I feel pretty in it, and I'm proud of the improvements that I made in my skills. I was able to sew fast and neatly, probably faster than I've ever sewn before. There's still plenty of room for improvement, but overall the finishing is good. Working with the lace was new and strange, and as tired and sore as my fingers are, I'm excited to begin another sewing project. I even started some, small embroidery pieces to keep my motivation up until I have a new project to start working on. So thanks for coming along with me on this journey. Thank you for sticking to the end of this video. And if you're interested in what I'm doing here, hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. And are you participating in the Fashion Foundations Revealed Challenge? Let me know down below, and maybe link your video if you've got one. I think that's it. I never know how to end these, so wear a mask, wash your hands, and be kind. Bye.